Hey everybody, welcome to Grower Coach. Ken Salvail here today. We're talking about air layering plants, and that's where you're going to force a plant to root out of its stem so that you can transplant it, multiply it, or if you have other needs like I do, I need to do this, so I figured I would just do a quick video here for you so you can see how to air layer your tropical plants. This does work on plants, mostly tropicals that are aggressive and fast growing and that sort of thing. So today I have a Plumeria and I have a Ficus elastica. And I've got this little plant here. And as you can see, it's got two stems. And what I want it to do is I want it to grow, this is Plumeria. I want this thing to grow straight up as a single stem and then branch up top like a tree, what they call a standard. And but I don't want to waste this side branch, so I need to cut this side branch off. So I figured I would just air layer it, and then you can see how that goes, and we can get that thing rooted, and should be great. And so I'll just tell you what you need to do this. Is you just need some zap straps, like so. These little zap straps work pretty well. And you just need a little chunk of recycled plastic of some sort. You can see it doesn't have to be perfect in any way, just a chunk of plastic. You need a really sharp knife. So I have a very sharp, should be non-serrated. It should be just a really good sharp edge. And then we need some sphagnum moss. So I'll just show you. I have dry sphagnum and I have wet sphagnum. So this sort of show you. This is a dry sphagnum. And then I soak it in water, and that's what this is here, is the sphagnum moss that's soaking. And so I have to do two of these, so I'm going to do them right now, and I'm just going to do them fairly quickly, and you should be able to see how this is going to work. So my plan is to root this stem somewhere in here, and I'm just going to do it in a convenient location, and just where it's easy for me to access. Like I'm not going to force it down into this little spot. So what we want to do is we want to just cut through the bark on this stem here, and we want to remove the bark for about a 1-inch gap all the way around the little branch here. So you have to be careful because the bark actually is a big part of the strength of this actual branch. So once I cut through the bark, then this becomes kind of brittle, and it could just snap off. So we have to be very careful with that. And then it's going to take possibly as long as a month or two for this to root and to grow. And that's why I use sort of clear plastic, is so that I can see when the roots are growing inside the plastic. Because if I use black plastic, then, you know, I have to kind of guess or open it up to have a look. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to see if we can make a cut on this. So I'm just going to go around the stem. I'm trying to find a place where maybe it's not so knobby here. There's lots of these little leaf nods here. So, and this plant is going to bleed quite a bit of sap. So I'm just cutting just through the bark like so. And so I just cut just through the bark. And you have to be careful. So you're just kind of pressing the blade so that it goes through. And I just want to make sure it's gone through everywhere. And then I'm just going to move. In this case, I might move up a little bit just to make it easier on myself, about 1 inch. And then again, I just press the blade through the bark. And as soon as it hits the wood, I have to stop. And I'm just going to keep cutting through the bark all the way around, like so. And I'm going to make sure these line up. So. And there we go. So now we've got 2 cuts all the way around. Now what we have to do is we have to remove this bark in this area. So this is where you have to be a little careful not to cut yourself and not to dig too deep into the branch. So I'm just going to cut this down like so. I want to just get right through the cambium layer. And this is still quite a juvenile plant, so because it's juvenile, it doesn't have like big woody stems like some other types of plants would have. Okay, I'm just going to cut that through. And I do have to make sure I remove most of the green part on this one. So if you still see green, you'll want to remove that. There we go. There we go. So now you can have a little bit of a close-up look at that. You can see, so we've just removed the bark all the way around. And now what's happening is there's still water that's getting up inside the stem, inside the woody part. But right now the juice that's flowing down into the roots is blocked because I've removed the phloem. Now I'm just going to grab some of the sphagnum moss here. I don't have too much for this one. I just need just a reasonable handful. I'm just going to give it a little wring out some of the excess water, like so. And then I'm just going to wrap it around this space here. You can see I'm just basically covering up that. Just need a little bit more on the back side here. That in here. And this is some sphagnum moss that you get will be easier to deal with than others. And now I'm just going to wrap this all up in the plastic. Like so. And I'm supporting the stem so it doesn't snap off. So the bigger this is, the bigger this stem is, the easier it's going to snap. So depending on what plant you're doing, this is common on Scheffeleras or on Ficus. So all the types of fig trees will propagate like this. This is Plumeria. And so I've just wrapped the plastic around it now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little zap strap. And I'm going to put one on, might use these white ones here. I'm just going to put one on here. There we go. Like so. And grab another one. And what it's going to do, the plastic is keeping the moisture in there. It's just keeping it moist. There we go. So we just use our 2 zap straps. I'm just going to use my little pruners here just to snip this off a bit, just so that it's a little easier. And you can see on this side what it looks like. And now it's just a matter of waiting. Like I say, it may take a month or so. So I might publish this video and then I'll call it part 1, and then part 2 is when we'll take this off. And then you'll see what I'm going to do is train this one into being a single stem tree with branches up top. So that one's done, and I'm just going to set that there. And now we have the ficus. This is a variegated Ficus elastica, or elastica, whichever way you want to say it. And I'll just have to grab a little bit more plastic here. Alrighty, so same procedure here, basically. But what we're going to do with this one is I just have to decide, the reason I'm cutting this is for different reasons. So this one I want to develop into a main stem and then branch up top. And then I'm able to propagate it and get another plant out of that one. And with this, I can definitely get another plant off the top of this one. But I'm doing this so that this branches out and sends out some more shoots, so it gets bushier. So I have to decide how high I want to cut this, and I'm thinking somewhere right in this area here is probably where I'm going to cut it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove one of these leaves, and so beautiful leaves, eh? They're just such a beautiful plant, this one. One of my favorite plants. Okay, so same procedure. I'm just going to go in here. This one's going to drip a lot of white sap. Now I'm going between the stems. And again, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to cut all the way around. Same as I did on the other one. And that's why they call it a rubber tree. This white latex is one of the first things they discovered to make rubber out of. And it works. You can see the way it just weeps like crazy. So this is where having a little cloth is handy. Which I have. Oh, this one has a little bit of cleaning stuff on it. That's okay. I'm just going to wipe that off a bit. Doesn't get all over everything. Okay, and so now I will just cut a little vertical there so I can get underneath it a little better on this one. And same idea. Remove the bark. So it's got to be a little deeper. So you have to kind of go up from the bottom up and from the top down. And we have to get right through that green layer and get down to where the wood is. Then I just go around, I'm just going to scrape it a little bit to make sure I don't want any connection between the top part and the bottom part on that with the cambium layer. I want that to be disconnected. So what actually goes on is that there's a hormone that's released by the growing tip of the plant called auxin. And it always travels downwards in the plant. So it's traveling down the plant, and it's produced only from the growing tips. And as it goes down, it normally would travel through the under the bark here in the cambium, in the phloem. It would flow downwards and work its way down and do its job. So that now we've cut this connection, that will no longer flow. So it'll come to here and it'll stop here, and it'll actually start to build up. And auxin, if you didn't know, is a type of rooting hormone. That's what they use for rooting hormone. So it'll go down and it'll build up right in this area here, and that's where your roots will grow. And there's a lot of dormant root buds and things that are all around each leaf. That's what they call the leaf node. And so I'm right close to the bottom of a leaf here. So likely this is where the very first roots will show up. Will be right under there. And let me just see this. Same thing as before. Wring out my moss, my plastic ready. I'm just going to put a little blob of sphagnum moss right on that, wrap it around, and put my plastic on. pull it kind of tight. So there we go. Grab my plastic ties. We always call them zap straps. I don't know. They are pretty commonly used. There's another one on the top. And you know, if this takes longer than you think, sometimes you have to come back and you pour a little water down in the top of this thing to keep it wet. So that's why we kind of, there's always a little bit of a hole you can see in the top here where this stem comes out, where this leaf stem is. If I need to water this, I can put water right in there. And depending on how long it takes, that's what you need to do. So again, this one, the other one I did, I had quite a few layers of plastic, so I may not be able to see the root as easily. But on this one, I can definitely see through this plastic, and I'll be able to see the roots when they start to grow. And they're going to be quite big, fat roots. And so we're going to let this go for a period of time. So check into part 2 of this video, and then I'll show you the results. And when this does root, we just grab the top of the plant and the bottom of the plant and just snap it off. And generally that'll just snap through that wood, and your roots will be hanging from the top part. And you just pop it into a pot and away you go. And they generally root quite easily that way. Other than that, you treat the plant the same as you always do. You just keep it watered as it needs water. And it's really just a little bit of a waiting game. Right now we're in the spring. It's early spring here. So that means the plants are starting to get excited and they're starting to grow faster. So this will probably root pretty fast in the springtime. I would say in the first half of the year, it's going to be really quick. In the wintertime, when plants are kind of slowing down, they're not doing as much, they may not root quite as quickly. So it might take 2 months, whereas this time I'm expecting this to take about a month. So that's it for today. I really do appreciate you checking out air layering today. Remember to like and subscribe if you can. It's always greatly appreciated. Any questions that you have, feel free to put them down in the comments there. It's always good to do, and I always appreciate and like to read those comments. It's great. So I do thank you again for tuning in. Have a great week. We'll be talking to you again soon.